Greetings and felicitations, YouTube. Jarl of the Appian Way here. I have a replay sent in to me by somebody who I played against this past weekend a couple of times. His name's Deez Nutsing. He's a big fan of not Sparta, but of Sparta's foe here, Penthesileia's Amazons. Penthesileia's Amazons has a soft spot in my heart. I love them too. The problem is, right now in multiplayer, they're not that great. The good news is there's a patch incoming, which is what this video is about, and it's going to give a ton of buffs to the Amazon rosters, in particular their cavalry and the skirmish cav of Hippolyta. Now then, let's talk about these armies, and then I'm going to read some patch notes, and I'm just going to let the battle play in its background. Deez Nutsing sent me 3 replays, one against Sparta, one against Mycenae, and one against Dardania, playing as Penthesileia, and won each match using a variation of this army. Let's talk about the army. We've got a Harpy Fiends and a Harpy, one on each flank. We have a Hippobakoi, one on each flank. We have a Horsewoman, one on each flank. A main line of 4 Labrys Infantry, a Daughter of Ares, and an Amazon Charger, and an Archer Skirmisher hero on the light horse option, which gives her a range of 210, which is bested only by Paris in one of his 2 chariot options. We're playing against a Spartan roster, which is a different take. I've not seen this played too terribly often, but it doesn't necessarily lend itself towards what I would call Sparta's strengths, so this might not be the best test for this Penthesileia army, but all the same, let's talk about it. We have 5 renowned armored slingers. We have an armored charger. We have an armored spearman. We have 3 renowned Laconian axemen, Menelaus on foot, a Cyclops, and a reinforced chariot. Already, the Archer Skirmisher hero is targeting armored spearmen and has selected them for death. Why is this important as well? Well, the Archer Skirmisher hero is facing some interesting debuffs. So, we'll see how that's all going to play out. In the meantime, let's go ahead, pick a unit here. I'm going to choose this Hippobakoi. Oh yeah, we're going to follow these ladies into battle in regular speed. While I read some patch notes, okay? Here we go. We're off to the races. So, the biggest 2 pieces of information here that everybody needs to be made aware of is that they're adding in, finally, quick battles. Quick battles are probably, I don't know for sure, probably going to be at 12,400 funds, which is going to take some players by surprise because a lot of multiplayer lobbies right now are set for 17,000 funds. Some players, if they want to participate in that quick battle ladder, are going to have to learn how to balance those, balance out that 4,600 funds that they're used to having. The other thing that's going to be thrown in, which will be a nice improvement to the game and hopefully to the community, they're adding the chat in. We're now going to be able to communicate to our opponents. We can spread the gospel of please don't corner camp, please don't forest camp, please don't chariot spam. We can actually build rules when we are setting up multiplayer lobbies. We can communicate to people. Honestly, we can improve the game so much with being able to communicate with our opponents rather than just assuming the worst or hoping for the best of our opponents when they make choices like, I'm going to bring nothing but renowned Phthian spear stacks. Speaking of renowned Phthian spear stacks, they got nerfed. How did they get nerfed? Well, they didn't really get nerfed. They didn't change anything about them. What they've done is they fixed that bug. Wipeout and I are taking all of the credit for this one. We discovered this bug because we noticed that spear units were performing better than they should on paper. And the bug was the shield stagger bug. The way they've worded it specifically, they fixed an issue causing many units with passive abilities, mainly spear and shield units with weapon switching abilities, to not trigger their stagger animations when taking damage. That stagger animation interrupts their attack cycle, which means that they were able to deal more damage more reliably than swords units, which were better than them on paper. This could be the end of the reign of the heavy spear unit in Troy multiplayer, and it could be the beginning of the reign of the heavy swordsman in Troy multiplayer. We shall see how things are going to play out. I'm optimistic. As well, there's been a campaign change that I'm excited about. they've changed the rules for when you're allowed to trade provinces with another faction in the campaign. You no longer have to always be sharing a direct border with them to trade that province. You can now trade a province to another faction that has a province or a region in that same province. So if you have, for instance, if you have in the Laconian province, if you have that little island at the very far end, far away from Sparta, you can trade that to Sparta without having to actually share a border with Sparta. See what I'm saying? Things like that. There have been other, minor changes and bug fixes. The battle balance changes are what we're here to talk about and what I am really most interested in. In particular, all hero chariot mounts have had their costs increased by 150 in custom battles. This is good news. It is going to slightly nerf the Archer Skirmisher hero. Another thing that's going to slightly nerf the Archer Skirmisher hero is that all Archer heroes have had their armor-piercing damage reduced by 20%. I don't think this is going to have as big of an impact as some people might. It's not the armor-piercing value. I mean, it is less damage, sure, but it's not the armor-piercing value that makes heroes like this lady over here. Oh, yeah, there she is. It's not the armor-piercing that makes her so dangerous. What makes her so dangerous is that her arrows penetrate through enemy units. So, there's also been another change that's worth noting with the with chariots, and that is that chariots have had their turn rate decreased by 50%. So there's chariots somewhere on the battlefield. Here we are. Here's a chariot unit for Sparta. These units won't. Oh, don't put your chariots in scrubs. Just don't do that. That's bad. Bad for their health. Don't put your chariots in scrubs, dude. All right, they're shattered anyway, so we're not going to really get much else out of them. But basically, chariots will no longer be able to turn around and cycle charge as quickly. They will no longer be able to maneuver in certain stretches of land as effectively. They're going to be less impactful, but their charges are going to be much more meaningful as a result of this change in the turn rate. The other thing that could happen with that is it may be even more impossible for chariots to escape certain situations. So that's a pretty significant nerf for chariots. I'm looking forward to see how that plays out. What I don't know is if that effect is also going to impact Archer Skirmisher chariots or Archer Trickster chariots or hero chariots in general. I don't know this. They say that it affects all chariots in the game, but as we've seen, the game doesn't treat chariot mounts the same way it treats chariot units. So maybe hero chariots are still going to be as zippy. We'll find out. We will find out. To give you an idea of what that chariot turn rate is like for an Archer hero, I've decided to load up the second replay that he sent me, which was of Penthesilea versus Sparta. I'm sorry, of Mycenae versus Mycenae. And we're following the Archer Skirmisher hero. We'll just kind of watch the maneuvers while I continue to read more of these battle balance changes. All javelin units, excluding the Harpies, and other mythic units that might have javelins, so giant armored spearmen, I think that's it. They have, let's see here, I just lost my place. Oh, they've had their armor-piercing damage increased by 10%. This is good news. I like that. All slinger units have had their reload speed decreased by 7 to 8%. Probably good news. I'm not so sure. I mean, that's going to lower their damage output in general, but probably not very significantly. All chariots, like I mentioned, turn speed reduced by 50%. Trojan nobles and Trojan princes have gotten some buffs. They've had their health increased by 10%. Their range increased, nobles from 165 to 180 and princes from 180 to 190. Agamemnon's guards and companions have had their health increased by 10%. Agamemnon's guards and companions have had their armor-piercing damage increased by 10%. And they will also have a slight bonus when fighting heroes. So these epic units of Paris and of Agamemnon have gotten some buffs. I don't think the Paris and nobles and princes buff is going to be that valuable, honestly. I don't think it's going to be very, very significant. Oh my gosh, we got an Archer Skirmisher standoff here. Is that what's happening? Oh, yeah, and they're not even shooting each other. They're shooting each other's infantry, which is exactly what they should be doing. I love this. I love this. So this is why the armor-piercing damage nerf on them isn't going to matter that much, because the arrows will just penetrate down the lines anyway. Does not care. One one fig about their armor. Okay, so here's a little bit of that turn rate being represented with the chariot. You can see it's it can turn pretty quickly. I don't know if it's going to affect hero mounts, and I'm very curious about that. Now then, Hippolyta's Chosen, which is one of her archer cavalry. Their armor-piercing damage has been increased by 25%. Coronites, which is the axe and shield infantry for Hippolyta and Penthesilea, have had their armor increased from 35 to 45. I just don't think it's enough to make them as valuable. It's the only mainline infantry option with a shield for Penthesilea, but I still don't think it's going to make a big difference. Hippotoxetai, which is one of Hippolyta's archer cav, have had their morale increased from 50 to 60, and their armor increased from 30 to 40. Toxoanasis, another of Hippolyta's archer cav, has had their damage and armor-piercing damage increased by roughly 20%. Furies, which is a melee cav for Penthesilea, has had their health increased by 10%. Armor-piercing damage increased from 13 to 17. A good buff, still probably too expensive and still too fragile. Hippobakoi, which is the heavy cavalry of Penthesilea, have had their health increased by 15%. Their armor increased from 40 to 50, which is good buffs. I think it's going to make them even more damaging and devastating in battle, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. Horsewomen, for both Penthesilea and Hippolyta, have had their armor increased from 40 to 50, and their armor-piercing damage increased from 10 to 12. This, coupled with the 1.5 decrease in their cost, is going to make Horsewomen even more valuable in these battles. Stigonores, which is a spear charger for Penthesilea, has had their armor-piercing damage increased from 8 to 12. Locrian Slingers, which I think that is the Ajax Slinger, and the veteran Locrian Slingers have had their armor-piercing damage reduced by 15%. They've had their range decreased, the veterans, from 190 to... Sorry, the regular Locrian Slingers has had their range reduced from 190 to 180, and the veteran Locrian Slingers have had their range increased from 180 to 190. Probably just an error on their part. And the Heels of Hermes unit ability will now increase the speed of units by 15%, down from 25%. So, there are some very significant battle changes that I feel are going to directly impact the meta of multiplayer battles. On top of this, Quick Battle in the Ladder is launching. There is going to be some very eye-opening battles in some people's future if they're not prepared for these bug fixes and balance changes. I still don't think the Amazons are going to be a valid pick for most competitive games. And, he just tried shooting the camera. How dare he? How dare he? There's just a lot to just wait and see about. Because there's also a big patch that's on its way. Something that you'll have to keep in mind, your replays are not going to work past tomorrow. So tomorrow is going to be a good day to clear out your replay folder, since none of those replays are going to be functioning anymore anyway. Let's go ahead and get it back into this battle, just to see how things have been progressing. As you can see, there's only about a minute left in the fight. Labrys infantry are crawling all over some light javelin men, which is good to see. The archer skirmisher hero is going to start chasing down the other archer skirmisher hero. And look at this, Horsewomen, Hippobakoi on the charge. Daughters of Ares coming back, and we got a club warrior out here, out of position. So the battle is going to be won over here, clearly, just as a result of this cavalry charge and those club warriors too far away to make a difference. So this is fun. This is a ton of fun, and I'm really, really looking forward to... Oh, there we go. Really looking forward to seeing how these changes are going to impact the multiplayer. I'm very excited about the death of the shield stacker bug. Oh man, there's a lot to be excited about come tomorrow, so you could expect to see more replays coming from me soon, alright? So anyway, those are the patch notes. I can't wait to side-by-side test some of these things. And I'll tell you what, before I end this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to load into a battle, and I'm just going to have some chariots do some spins. Gonna have them do some spins, and then I'm gonna put that same clip over top of post-update so you could see the difference in performance for chariots, okay? Let me go ahead and make that happen for you. So here we go. The archer trickster hero in a chariot. There's an example of the turn rate.
You bet.
A nice leisurely turn, I'd say, but still fairly quick all the same. All right, let's go harass ourselves a Hector, and we're gonna get our medium chariots out here. Just getting a feel for their turn rate. Let's see what happens when I order them to come back. Fairly quick turn, I'd say. Takes about 3 seconds for them to do a 180. Presumably, after tomorrow's update, it's going to take them 4.5 seconds to turn around. 1, 2, 1,003. So yeah, it takes like 3 seconds. Let's get the heavy chariots out here. Okay, now looking at the heavy chariot turn. Actually, it's about the same. It's about 3 seconds. Alright, so this is going to be really interesting to see when the update comes out tomorrow, and I am going to try and do a little bit of a side-by-side so you can see both. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Ta-ta, I love you all. I'll see you in the next one.